Green Bay hustle, grind it up. Hit the field, we don't bluff. Touchdown dances, feel the love. Jordan's got that MVP stuff. It's time for the up. Let's go. Packers bringing that show. It's time for you know who. Wanna go, gonna glow.
Aloha and welcome back to another episode of the Ohana Packers Edition podcast. The Packers, just like last year, are just reversing into the playoffs in sad trombone fashion, and we've got a front row seat to it. But Joe, I'm glad I was at Universal Studios yesterday and not watching the game.
Yeah, I was at the Humane Society because we're thinking about getting another dog. So I spent some time with a scared pupper for a little bit, so that was able to keep my mind off this game for a bit. But yeah, it wasn't much.
Honestly, I haven't watched the whole thing, so you can take the lead on this one.
You're not missing much.
Let's just not take too much time on this one, and let's go with the segments.
Fresh cheese.
There we go. For some reason, it delays on my side.
No, that's not why I'm laughing. I'm laughing. There's only so many options here.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a bit on offense. Defense is going to be lacking for sure, but like the obvious one here is Malik Willis and his continued success. I mean, you can tell he was hurting, and for him to be able to pull through with a lot of the stuff he did, you can see the arm talent's there, you can see the run ability is there. And this goes back to what we talked about last week. It's kind of weird that LaFleur can game plan for Malik, but he can't game plan for Jordan. And for the most part, this was a tremendous game plan by Malik. You knew they were going to try to stop the run as best they could, and the Ravens did stop the run wonderfully, so they had to rely on Malik and his arm and leg talent. And he was dropping some dimes. I mean, some of those passes were just amazing, putting them where only his receiver could get them. Really didn't overthrow anything, really didn't underthrow anything. They were like perfect on-target passes. I know some people were throwing out there just to just to be that person to say, well, when are we going to have the quarterback controversy? And the only thing that I've got to say is I'm happy for Malik. I'm glad he's showing off what his abilities are, but I don't want to see him go. And because I just know that it's very rare to find a guy to be your backup that can also start on 31 other teams. And it makes me worried for what the backup situation is going to be after the end of this season.
Honestly, we may find out as soon as this coming week because the Packers are the 7th seed. There's no mystery there. They can't do anything about their playoff seeding. And they basically said that they are going to be very judicious about resting guys. And if you don't have the starting O-line out there, it's kind of one of those, like, why would you even put Jordan out there even if he's healthy kind of things?
I've been thinking about that, and with him already being off a couple of weeks because of injury, I would at least want him to get out there to get some, even if it's just a drive, to just get some reps. That way he's not going into the playoffs completely cold.
Yeah, treat it like a preseason game kind of thing and stuff. But yeah, you don't want him, especially against a Flores defense that's just going to be doing whatever and wherever kind of thing. You probably don't want him behind a makeshift O-line, especially if Tom is sat next week. But Tom also kind of falls in that same boat where he hasn't played in a month kind of thing. So it's like, do you want him to get some live reps if he's cleared medically and stuff? So it just complicates things because it's like, when you go into this situation where you want to treat it like a preseason game, you don't have a preseason roster. So if you pull like a dozen guys in game, then it's like you only got players to work with and stuff, and then it gets really dicey if you get any more injuries, which I'm sure we'll talk about as this episode goes. But yeah, I'm really curious to see how they handle it. And to kind of go hand in hand with you putting Malik up there, you got to give credit to the receivers who were making plays for him. I know that he was on target more often than not, and a credit to him given that he missed practices during the week because the shoulder was so bulky. But Christian had a nice touchdown. Romeo had a couple nice plays, and this game was always going to be ugly because of the fact that you don't have your starting quarterback. You've got a bunch of key contributors, whether they're on IR or just missing multiple games with injury. And for guys to step in and step up, it's really good to see that at this point of the season. And frankly, at this point, if the last 2 weeks haven't convinced you, for this team to have any sort of success in the postseason, it's going to be Jordan getting healthy and this offense carrying 3/4 of the weight along the way. And that's how it's going to have to be.
Yeah, and just to stick with both of that, I was just looking at it. Malik was 18 of 21. So that means there were only 3 misses. And I think there were a couple of drops. I know one for sure was a Bo Melton one that should have been caught, but I don't know. So they're just, he was on point. And again, I go back to it. I know I'm going to sound like a broken record. It's really odd that LaFleur can game plan Malik into being 18 of 21 for 288 yards, but he struggles with Jordan. Now, so does that mean Jordan's having an issue, or does that mean LaFleur's having an issue with scheming for Jordan? And yeah, I don't know.
Yep. Anything else you had for this segment?
You already mentioned the wide receivers. I am going to throw, because there are just very few on defensive side, I'm going to throw Lucas in there because I thought he was like one of the lone bright spots on the defense because he was getting consistent pressure and, he seemed to really be wrecking that offensive line for as much as he could. Let's see, I was going to look at it real quick here. He did have one QB hit. He came close to sack a couple of different times. So, he had some pressures in there. So, yeah, I gotta throw him in there just because there's not a lot on this defensive side that you can say was very fresh.
When you give up 130 yards in the 130 rushing yards in the first half, there's not much nice things to be said.
Yeah, and that was the big worry coming into the game. I'm trying to think if there was anything else.
I guess a snarky positive is the increased chances that Hafley is back next season.
Yeah, because this is only the second 40 pointer he's given up this season.
Yep.
Dallas and then this one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I still think we're hoping.
Playing possum.
Yeah. Other than that, I really don't see any. I'm just trying to scroll through here real quick. No, I don't really. I mean, there was not much for this game. I was tuning out of it real quick. So we can jump in this stale.
Yep.
What's this stale shit?
Yeah, see, for some reason it's delayed on my side, son of a bitch. Stale-wise, I'm going to throw the linebackers in there because they they weren't bad enough to be moldy, but they also weren't good enough to be anywhere close to fresh. So I guess stale wise, uh, for being, I I think I got to put heavy emphasis on Isaiah McDuffie this time around. It wasn't so much Quay and Edge because they had so much stuff that they had to go through, but you could honestly see in this game that Isaiah is very limited athletically. And, like there was one play that sticks in my mind where he came off as the free edge rusher. And, for as much shit as people give Rashawn for looking like he's running through sand, you know, Isaiah just plotted his way through. So I, and this isn't anything really against him because he's a football player. He's a blue collar player. He just, you can tell he didn't have the athletic ability to do what we needed.
Yeah,
So
like you said, we don't want to speak ill of the dead or anything like that with Isaiah. It's more just you'd really hope you're at a point where Hopper is taking more snaps, or hell, even Welch at this point is taking more snaps. And
well, Welch is out on IR, so he's
oh
not
yeah,
going
that's
to
right.
be.
Sorry, that's right. They've got so many guys, and I know that LaFleur just said that Jordan Riley and Kamal Haddon are going on IR basically at this point
Well, if
too.
you
So
didn't see it, Haddon, they wouldn't even show the replay of the injury for Haddon because they said it was
that's a
gruesome.
bummer. That's an absolute bummer for Haddon because
So
yeah,
there's no doubt about that, and it had to been a broken leg of some sort because what you could see when they had him on the cart was they had him in one of them air casts. So yeah, I haven't looked back. I don't want to see the replay on it because but
yeah.
it can't be good for him.
Yep, just absolutely gut wrenching. You just hate to see it when guys get to this point of the season and you're just left with that kind of a reaction. So, yeah, like that probably goes more into the moldy, but it's just so unfortunate that the Packers season it started off so well from an injury standpoint, and that it's just progressively eroded and deteriorated in that deteriorated is probably too nice of a word, but it has the rug has really been yanked out from under this team with
I
regards to
wonder if that
injuries.
has a little bit to do with the early bye week because they've been the bye week was week 5, so we've played almost 12 weeks straight without a real break in between. I mean, you have your quote unquote mini buys, but that's a long time to be playing without any kind of
Yeah.
break in between.
And you think about who they've played too. They've played a lot of teams with athletic quarterbacks and stuff like that. There's been a lot of like running around for the defense. And yeah, it is just a bummer to see that we're at this point where like they were, 2 games and 1.5 quarters ago, they were playing for the potential to be in striking distance of the number 1 seed in the NFC, and now it's like I don't want to say you don't want to get there, but it's like, what is the realistic chance? It's not as they're not as bad as going into Philadelphia last year, kind of thing. But just the sour taste in your mouth because of all the injuries. It's like off to the slaughterhouse kind of thing and stuff. But
However,
yeah.
the prophecy is still there because we limped into the playoffs in 2010. So
the quarterback got concussed and mixed the next game. The only thing that's off is he won't play 2 games before it's just 1 game. But yeah, it is just so shitty that it's playing out this way where it's like, fuck, like can we get some just a normal season kind of thing?
But if we end up with the championship at the end, we're not going to complain about it too much.
Yeah.
We're going to look back at this season fondly.
Yep.
Stale wise, I don't know how much of it you actually watch. So is there anything you can think of stale wise that you'd want to throw out there?
And I guess a stale one will just be people getting on LaFleur at this point, and I'm kind of like, yeah, we've had our issues, we've had, you and I have had like our complaints and stuff, but there's just been so many guys out and injured that it's like I don't know what he's supposed to do at this point anymore. I know that like a lot of people kind of get irritated with that attitude, but I'm like, there's just so many deck chairs that have fallen off the side of the Titanic at this point that it's like like he's kind of everyone's palms up at this point, and he
the only thing that I
points.
can keep ragging on him about is like I said, the beating the dead horse. He can scheme Malik into some amazing stuff, but he can't with Jordan for some reason.
Yeah, and even in that Bears game before he got concussed, they were marching up and down the field with Jordan. It was only 2 drives, but they went right through Chicago's defense on both drives. And yeah, it's just one of those like just you shake your head kind of moments. Yeah.
But stale wise, I'm going to throw the offensive line in there stale wise because they were getting. I mean, it wasn't horrible because they did have a mobile quarterback behind them, but they didn't do anything for that run game outside of Malik making stuff happen with his feet. So I really got to put a stale in there. I think the only reason I keep it stale is because I don't know how much Jacobs is still banged up.
Right, and especially, and I agree with you, like, it is disheartening after it seemed like they were turning some corners against, like, the Vikings game, the Lions game, and then, the first Bears game, and even through that Broncos game with the long Jacobs touchdown, and then they just haven't done anything worthwhile on the ground since, and it's just like like you said, it is just irritating to see that it's amounted to nothing at this point of the season.
And granted, they have been dealing with their own injuries on that point, but still, you would think that with the type of talent they have at running back, that they would still at least be able to open a couple of holes for these guys to be able to run through. So, stale-wise, I think that's about it. Just off the top of my head, maybe throw in no, I think that all can go moldy. Yeah, we can jump.
It's a moldy cheese.
Damn delays. Obviously, it's got to be the defense, doesn't it? When you're giving up 216 yards and 4 touchdowns. Now, obviously, it is Derrick Henry, and we all knew it was Derrick Henry coming into the game. But, yeah, over 200 yards and 4 touchdowns, and there just was really no stopping him. On top of that, they gave up 60 to Huntley and another 31 to Keaton Mitchell. So they gave up over 300 friggin' rushing yards in this game alone. And we all knew it was going to happen. We knew what they were going to be leaning on, and they still couldn't stop it. I'm going to throw this in there with it. The decisions on actives, inactives, they left Stackhouse, Oliver, and Sorrell on the inactive list. Oliver, I kind of understand just because, he hasn't seen much. But Sorrell and Stackhouse, with knowing you're going up against Derrick Henry, don't you want as much beef as you can on that friggin' front 7 and be able to rotate them in and out? I don't know who I would have set down opposite, but good Lord, especially after Riley goes out with an injury, now you're riding with just Brinson, Brooks, Wooden, and Bohannon. And I know Stackhouse hasn't been great for most of the season, but he's still a big, beefy guy that he should be at least able to plug up a little bit of the running lanes. So yeah, that was really disheartening to see them get just completely obliterated.
Yeah, and like the frustrating thing too is they've kind of made those decisions all season. In terms of like going light up front when they could load up and stuff against some other teams and all. But
Oh,
and yeah, you're just down so many of your like top guys in the front seven, and then you're like, okay, we're gonna still roll light in the box, but it's like at some point you have to make a decision where it's like, yeah, and you have to recognize like, yeah, you're down your talented guys, so you have to almost win you have to win your battles with numbers, kind of thing, and just throw numbers at it to be
okay.
your quote unquote solution. Oh,
Start over because you completely disappeared on us.
okay, so you made the point about the decisions to activate deactivate certain D linemen, and they've made those decisions, those choices all season, but at some point you have to reconcile the fact that you're down Micah Parsons, you're down Devontae Wyatt, who I know we kind of said like he's not great against the run, but that's one of your playmakers along the defensive line. And when you're losing the quality at the top, the cream on your roster at the top of a position group, you have to like reconcile. You don't have the talent upside, so are you going to do it with exotic blitzes, or are you going to just throw numbers at the problem to try and provide a solution in that way? And you kind of did neither, and you got the outcome that you should have expected you would get when you go that route. So, like you said, Joe, it's frustrating that you didn't choose either path and you chose to go down the middle, and you got that smacked out of the forget the yard, you got it smacked out of the stadium, bro, and it's just yeah, like it is the whole it's the guy in the hot dog costume who's responsible. We all know who did it, but who could it be, kind of thing. And yeah, like you just keep leaving yourself open to these kind of opportunities, and you kind of I know you were talking about other things. You were talking about what we expected Baltimore to do, but it also sort of was a microcosm of it's like you just dare teams to run on you, and you didn't do enough to stop them from doing it, especially against, like as you brought up, a team that wants to run the ball and would rather not have Huntley throw it very much. And then on top of it, you still give up passes in the passing game. So it's like, what did you really accomplish?
Well, the
So
thing
yeah,
about the passing game, though, they only gave up 107 passing yards. So I can't fault them for that, but it was one of those things that, Baltimore knew that they were going to be able to just continue to run it. So why even bother trying to throw it out there? And
yeah,
I don't, like I said, I get not activating Oliver. I kind of question the Sorrell one because Sorrell is is disruptive, that's for sure, but he's also got a little bit of beef to him. But Stackhouse, yeah, I get that he's not been playing well, but just his size alone should have been a factor in keeping him on the active list. And this is where I say the linebackers are in the stale for the most part because they even struggled with it. We know what Derrick Henry's going to do. He's going to run right up the gut and take out as many people as he could. And, our guys, for as athletic and as vicious as they can be, still couldn't do anything about it. And, this is another thing with the defensive backs. We know Evan likes to be physical. We know, McKinney can be physical. We know Javon can be physical. But they didn't show it. I mean, Evan had that one against Derrick Henry later in the game, but outside of that, they avoided contact at all cost. And
yeah, there was a lot of like the battle is over, like just making business decisions, kind of thing.
And we know the corners aren't going to tackle. As much as I like Carrington, and I think Carrington can be a very good cover guy, he can't tackle. There is no tackle to him.
It's the last few weeks you're seeing the reason why they were willing to just live and die with whatever Hobbs was going to give them in coverage, because he's a million times better as a tackling corner than Carrington ever will be. And you like, for anyone questioning why did they stick it out so long with Hobbs, that's why, because they're like, he might give stuff up, but our run defense is going to be solid, and our short passing game defense coverage is going to be shored up and stuff. So that's where you live with it, and that's why they were willing to just accept whatever Hobbs was able to give them in coverage. But yeah, anything that could bite them in the ass on defense bit them in the ass.
And I'm going to throw this in here because I want to throw this question out there. Does this mean that they're already giving up on Hobbs and his contract when they make him the number one kick returner for this game?
I don't know. I don't even know how to or where to approach that.
I mean, if you're thinking this guy is going to be your one of your key defensive backs going forward because you gave him, what was it, a 4-year contract, big money contract, and we're at week 17, and now he's your number one kick returner. Does that mean, what's that mean? Does that mean you've given up on him and his contract, or does that mean that your special team's just so bad that you're trying to throw anybody and everybody back there just to try to get anything going?
Yeah, and I mean, just throw your hands up. Why is Bisaccia still here at this point? And I have no answer for that. You see me just leaning back into the couch and shaking my head. All we can do is laugh at this point.
I don't know. But if those are the decisions that are being made, then yeah, Bisaccia needs to be gone at the end of the season. I don't... Yep. He doesn't have to be gone right now because there's only 1 week left in the regular season, and then, the playoffs are just a crapshoot. If, they could go on a run, they could not go on a run, whatever. But yeah, I kind of raised an eyebrow with that because, like, I don't understand what's going on here. Because as far as I know, Hobbs isn't really that athletically gifted. I don't think he's the speediest guy in the world, and I don't think he's ever actually taken snaps as a returner. So just to throw
the part that he's been a coverage player and stuff like that, but I don't think he's ever been the return guy.
Yeah, I don't know if he's ever been, even going back to college, if he's ever been a return guy. So just to have him back there was really, really weird. I know Savion was out, so it just, whatever. But I was going to look here real quick. Kick and punt returns. He's had, in a 5-year career, he's had 2 punt returns. No. In a 5-year career, he's only had 2 kick returns, and that was this year. So, yeah. If that tells you anything. And I don't know about his college stuff, so I couldn't tell you about that. I'd have to go back and do a deep dive on it. But what else can I throw out there for the moldy?
The one I'll just throw out there is, I kind of brought it up in the intro. It just sucks to be going into the playoffs 2 years in a row where, like, there is the whole be grateful you're going instead of not going, but also at the same time, it's like, what are we hoping to accomplish at this point? Yeah, it just sucks to have that dark cloud hanging over your team's head going into the playoff 2 years in a row. And not in a, like, oh, your team's not talented. Like, this team is still talented, but the Kraft injury, the Parsons injury, the Wyatt one to a lesser extent, the fact that Tom hasn't been healthy in a month, Jacobs has been dealing with injuries all season, and you're kind of just like, forget this playoff game. Who's even back next year, kind of thing, and not even like a salary cap situation. I mean, I know that the salary cap drives all of those questions, but at the same time, it's like, who's playing their last game as a Packer?
And that's
I know we'll do that talk later.
Well, yeah, and that's been my thing here because, yes, Christian stepped up since coming back from injury. But now Romeo is starting to heat up again with both Malik and Jordan. So can you and they still have not gotten Matthew Golden integrated into the offense at all. And now Wicks is down with a concussion. Jaden Reed is kind of cooled off since coming back, but still is making some plays. For such a strong group that they came into the season with, now I have huge ass friggin' questions going into next season. And not so much talent wise, but contract wise. Because Romeo's done at the end of the year, unless they re-sign him for something. Watson's got a 1-year extension. And for all the people saying, well, they need to go ahead and sign him for longer, well, they can't until when did they sign him this year? For yeah, it's a year.
Whatever
to the date.
Yeah, the date is, yeah.
Reed will be going into the final year of his contract. Wicks will be going into, right?
Yep.
This is, yeah.
Yep.
So then after that, the only two guys that you have under contract for another couple years is Savion and Golden. Bo, I think, is gone. I don't know how they can keep justifying, because, you know, is he a corner? Is he a wide receiver? And some of the mental mistakes that he's been making, even though he does come up with a big catch here or there, just some of his mental mistakes, like the one drop that he had in this game hit him right on the shoulder, and it's like,
and he kind of cost them the Eagles game. I know there were a lot of mistakes, but he had several moments in that game where ran the wrong route, dropped a couple passes, kind of thing, and it's like,
I don't think he's ever going to be the guy that he's always going to be that
better in theory than in reality kind of player.
Well, not just that, but he's going to be the guy, kind of like we talked about Heath for a while. He's going to be the guy that comes up with one or two plays here or there, but it's not going to make or break your team.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I don't know. Like I said, for such a strength that was coming into the year, now it's going to end up being a weakness, because it's like, what are we going to do? I don't see them going out and signing a free agent unless it's like a 1-year vet minimum type thing. Are they going to give Romeo a bag of money? You know,
they're done. I think they're done there. It's gonna drive people crazy, but one of their D2 picks is gonna be on a wide receiver. I'd be willing to bet decent money on it. Like, anyone who's saying like, oh, but they have, I'm like, they're gonna lose half the room. Like you said, half the room is up for free agency after next season. And then I do think Watson would be worth the money, but at the same time, it's like, he's been healthy since he's come back from the ACL.
Ish.
But at the same time, you're gonna bet a 3 to 4 year contract paying him $25 million a year on 8 games kind of thing. Like, that's why Goot and Ball are paid the big bucks they are. But yeah, that's why I would use every one of those 365 days till he's eligible for that extension to pay him that extension. Like, just get all the data you can, kind of thing.
And I go back to it, and I know I'm gonna, people are gonna say I'm biased because I have been on the pick since before the draft, but this is where it boggles my mind that they're not integrating Golden more into the offense than they have. Yeah, he's been okay wise integration. I mean, they have given him I think I saw somebody said that he's had more receiving yards than Randall Cobb did his rookie year, but there's a big difference between the two guys. Randall Cobb was a second round pick. Matthew Golden was the first wide receiver taken in the first round since 2022. I was trying to find him so I could pull up what he's actually got stat wise. Well, we know he doesn't have a touchdown, that's for sure. Let's see. He's got 353 yards.
He's got like 100 more than Cobb did as a rookie.
And the thing is when they go to him, he's legit. You know, he's the big thing, and I didn't even pay attention to it until somebody else called it out on like Twitter or something. But he's got the hands that you want for a receiver, where, you know how they always tell you that you can tell a good receiver by how he preps to catch the ball. And does he go out straight away and keep his hands out there for the ball? Or does he have those quick hands that he waits until the last second to put his hands out to catch the ball? And that's what Golden does. He's got that quick motion that the DB doesn't know the ball's coming to him until the ball's already in his hands. And I'm so confused by the use of him. I go back to, I wonder if it's LaFleur's not sure how to handle using a guy like him. And, you know, I get that they're slow rolling, and they usually always slow roll their rookies. But again, I go back to, with all the uncertainty in the wide receiver room going forward, you would think you would want to expedite his growth a little bit more.
Yeah, I still think that it's more that they just don't trust him quite much, but it is into that whole, like, you better start trusting him because, like you said, they've either, the guys they're using are capped out in terms of how good they can be, or the other guys are injured or banged up and stuff, and it's kind of like, you've sort of hit your ceiling with where this offense is going to be with the guys that are playing. And, you know, I do think Golden will be more effective next year when he has a full off season to study the book, all that kind of stuff. But I do think a big part of it is LaFleur is just kind of like, this kid a chunk of the time still doesn't know where he's supposed to be and stuff. And, you know, those are the kind of things that we'll never know without being behind closed doors. And at the same time, I do agree with you that, like, it would have been nice to just see him used more. It's the ultimate chicken and egg thing. I don't have the answers for it.
Well, the one thing I'm going to disagree with you on right now is I get not trusting him earlier in the season just because he's a rookie and all that. But we're 1 week away from the end of the season, and you still don't trust him enough to get him more involved into the offense, even just to give him a couple more maybe deep routes or a couple of slants or whatever per game. You're only going to throw him out there for like 5 snaps a game or whatever it is. That's where it kind of boggles my mind with that stuff.
Yeah, and I don't know. Like, I know people are going to point to the Savion thing and stuff, but I'm like, what is Savion doing that's actually complicated? They're literally telling him, you're in here you're definitely getting the ball, and you're going to run that way, kind of thing. So
they're just doing with him what he did in college right now.
Yeah. And and Golden had the steeper learning curve and stuff. I've just honestly, I'm that my attitude toward it is not indifference, but I'm just not getting stressed about it because I've just accepted that they were never going to put him on the front burner, and therefore, if he comes out and just has a playoff run that bolts them to the Super Bowl, then fuck it. They slow played it properly, kind of thing. But also at the same time, it's like, right or wrong, this is how they've always approached it with rookies. I wish they would have pushed the button a little sooner, but also he got hurt in the middle of the season when they really could have used him. He was out with the wrist in the middle of like them adjusting to the Kraft injury and stuff like that. I would be a little bit hotter on it if he had been fully healthy through the season, because I would definitely agree with you then. It's like there's no excuse not to play him, but it's like, he was dinged up when they really had a shortage of receivers, and that's when he like kind of pushed the panic button on bringing Jaden Reed back and stuff, and it's like, it would have been nice to have the rookie, but he also wasn't on the field either. So, like I said, that's where I kind of just shrug my shoulders and say like, I'll be more upset if he's still being underutilized next season, kind of thing.
Yeah, well, I mean, if they're definitely utilizing him next season, then we know there's an issue because, again, unless they're going to give Romeo a bag of money or slap the tag on him or whatever, he's gone. So there's going to be a big hole that needs to be filled. And, yeah, but I don't know. There's not much more else I can talk about this other than, for some reason, when the Packers don't punt, they lose, which is really weird. Because what is it? They're like 0-8 this season on games that if they don't punt at all, they lose the game.
They can't be 0-8, but yeah, I think it's like,
or maybe
0-4
not for the
or something
season,
like that.
but yeah.
Yeah. I think this season they're like 0-3 or 4 or something like that, which, yeah, it's just a weird stat when you think about it.
Well, yeah, because when you don't punt, you would think that you're having so much success that you're not having to use your punter, but for the Packers, it seems to be the opposite. So I think maybe for them to win games, they need to at least just send Whelan out there for some random punt just so they don't get that negative juju or whatever it is on them.
Anything else you really think needs to be called out for this one? I just feel like there's no real quote-unquote constructive things to call out here because they're very clearly like, they weren't going to throw the kitchen sink at an uncommon opponent. I get that they would have still been in the running for the NFC North, but you don't have your starting quarterback. You're missing your starting right tackle. You've got the guys that are on IR, but I'm kind of just like, I wish they did better, but at the same time, I'm not surprised. It was a loss. It was worse than I thought it would be, but at the same time, I'm kind of like, they weren't going to show anything, and they're just like, the hope is that they're just keeping all their trump cards for the playoffs or whatever that playoff run is going to look like.
I can't think of anything. I can't even throw the refs in there because I thought the refs were fairly good.
The Packers are too shitty on defense for it to matter.
Well, even on offense, there really wasn't a lot of penalties called, period. And there was really no time that I could say, oh, yeah, well, that should have been a penalty. That should have been a penalty. 6 penalties for 45 against Baltimore and 5 penalties for 38 against Green Bay. So, yeah, I got to say that this was a decent reffing job for a Packers game this season. I would like to think this is how a ref crew should be in the NFL. Other than that, I don't think there's any more that I can throw out there.
Yeah, no need to beat the dead horse. The horse is at the glue factory already at this point for this game. So
the only thing I got to say is I understand if they want to rest some guys this next week against Minnesota, but you can't go into the playoffs cold. You've got
Yeah,
to throw
I
some
agree.
guys out there. You've got to score some points.
Honestly, this would be the week that like you sit Watson and Reed, and it's like Jordan, go get some live snaps with Golden. Like this would be the perfect scenario. The Vikings have a good front seven. Flores does a lot of his exotic stuff with his front. Their corners aren't anything special, so it's like if you can get the timing down with Golden against the exotic defense, it's like that would be good to get kind of going into the playoffs, and that would be the way I approach it. Get some throws to Musgrave, get acclimated with whichever one of Dabney or the made up named Tennessee volunteer tight end.
Yeah, it was Dabney yesterday. They brought up Dabney yesterday.
And I think that is, like you pointed out, he's the better blocker between him and McMullet, McDermott, whatever the guy's name is.
McCastle.
Yes, thank you. See, I knew it was a mix something.
But I mean, I would even go for the win next week. That way,
I think so. You know what? I agree with you that like I said, you don't want to sad trombone it into the playoffs 2 years in a row. I get that you're not playing for anything, but like obviously, don't risk injury. Shouldn't go in where you just laid duds for 3 weeks in a row too. Like that just. That kind of thing doesn't go well into the playoffs. Like you look at the 2010 Packers, they went in hot. Even the Giants, the year after, it was their whole thing is they tried to beat the Patriots to keep them from going perfect, kind of thing. And then the Ravens were hot going into the playoffs. Obviously, the Seahawks just dominated 2013. Like you just don't see teams who just go in looking like crap. I think the Peyton Colts season might be the only one where it was like, oh, they're kind of listless going in, and then they go and rattle off wins and win the Super Bowl. And yeah, I agree with you that you need Jordan to play a little bit. He's missed 2 games. You got to get him out there and just get him back into the game flow. So yeah, I'll be really curious to see how they play it. But yeah, I agree with you. I think they do need to get some live fire reps on them.
I do also have a question for you. There's a couple of teams that signed tight ends to their active roster off of practice squad. Do you think they did that because the Packers had tried to, like Mercedes was signed to the Broncos active roster? Was it the Patriots or the Panthers signed one to their active roster?
I could see it, yes, because obviously Mercedes has ties. I know it's been a few years since he played, but like he got most of the playbook down, I'm assuming. The Panthers one, I didn't see who it was, but if it was the Panthers, I know that they had one of our former tight ends on their practice squad, so I wouldn't be surprised there. I could definitely see it because Green Bay is effectively down to one tight end at this point because we still don't know what's up with Wiley.
No, he played yesterday.
Oh, he did play? Okay.
Yeah, he played. He had...
Again, by the time this game was playing, I was going on the Transformers ride with Jalen again. So, like I said, you can see where my priorities were. Yeah.
So, yeah, Wiley played yesterday, but yeah, without Fitzpatrick, they're really limited on who they have on roster. But there was like 2 or 3 different teams that signed tight ends to their active roster, and it just made me think, did they sign them to the active roster because the Packers were trying to pick them up? Because, you
I can definitely see it with Big Dog. Yeah.
I'll have to look to see who the names were, but like I said, I know Mercedes was, and I can't think it was the Panthers. I want to say it was a P team, so it either had to be the Patriots or the Panthers, but yeah. All right. Yeah, that's all I got.
But I finally did my part. Joe's been hounding me as he needs to get him stuff. We're going to finally do some drawings, and so Joe is taking care of that. We're sending out some signed memorabilia from... Sorry. Please plug the shop. I don't want to fudge it up.
One of these days we'll sit down and actually do an ad for this so we can put it out. But there's a signed 8x10 of Dave Robinson from Clubhouse Sports. John Del Rey donated. Kawano sent some goodies
from home.
Which is really funny because it's a Hawaiian staple, but it's made in China.
Like everything is in the U.S.
But there's a lot of goodies that we're going to break up. I've got this thing, too, that I'm going to give away that's signed by Malik and Brandon McManus. Like I said, John Del Rey from Clubhouse Sports in Sheboygan, Wisconsin sent a 8x10 of Dave Robinson. I got a couple other things I'm going to throw in there as a bundle, but basically to get entered, all you got to do is go follow us over on Facebook. Once we hit at least 100 follows on Facebook, we're going to put all the names together into a giant randomizer, run it 1, 2, 3 different times, and whoever comes out on top will win. I think we'll even throw an item from the merch shop. So, if you want to get a jump on things, just go over, follow us on Facebook so we can start streaming over there when we do go live.
Tell your friends, tell your family. Check us out
you don't even
on
have to
all
be
our
active
social...
on Facebook. Just go follow us.
Yep. So check us out on all the social medias, though, at Ohana_Packers on Twitter, at Ohana Packers Edition on Instagram. Excuse me. Again, please follow us on Facebook. Get the followers up so that you could be entered in for our drawings. Check out the website, ohanapackers.org. Support the shop there. Support the show. Please follow us on your favorite podcasting apps. Give us a like and a subscribe. And Joe is doing all the yeoman's work on that end of putting out posts to request questions, comments, topics of conversation. Please join True North when we do live shows so that, he's always putting in good, fun comments, but also, like, take the limelight from True North a little bit, too. We love you, though, True North.
And if you're from a rival team, I know we haven't really been answering a lot of the comments on YouTube, but, I don't care. Throw your opinion in there. We read it. The only time we'll delete it or block it is if it's spam or something vulgar or something like that. But, yeah, we have quite the laugh at it when you guys post on there. But before we actually do end, I do want to throw this out there. Do remember that because we are getting closer to the end of the season, whether the Packers make a prolonged run or whatever, just kind of programming thing, we'll probably take a break for a couple weeks and then start going into our draft stuff. And then after that will be if Kawano wants to join this time, he can, but it'll be the off-season off-topic stuff. So if there's anybody you want to see us bring on for the off-season off-topic, send us a message, let us know who, so we can start getting some of those things sent out.
But that'll do it for us. We hope you're having a good, like we said last week, don't let Packers games determine how your holiday season is going. Joe and I, like you said, he might get a new dog. I was at Universal Studios. Enjoy the time, and if the Packers are letting you down, spend the time with your family, spend the time with your loved ones. Don't let a football game determine the outcome of your holiday season or just your general time. But for Iowa Joe, I'm Mike. Go Pack Go, and a low.
Green Bay hustle, grind it up. Hit the field, we don't bluff. Touchdown dances, feel the love. Jordan's got that MVP stuff. It's time for the up. Let's go. Packers bringing that show. It's time for who wanna go.